Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user ImpressiveGarlic488. Am I the a-hole for demanding that my fiance's parents change their plans to have a vacation at the same place as our honeymoon? My fiance and I have our wedding coming up in April. We had brainstormed for a while on where best to spend our honeymoon. We went over the more popular and well-known places, but then landed on a more offbeat destination that I felt would truly be a great place for us to start our lives as a married couple. I've been looking forward to it just being the two of us. I know he has a really hectic work schedule and we were going to make the most out of this. A couple of days ago, he told me that his parents had been impressed by how hyped I was about it and were planning on going there for a vacation too, largely overlapping with our dates. They are staying at the same hotel as us. I was livid. They can go any other time. Why now? He said he had suggested that, but his mom said that they had taken time off for the wedding too, and it worked well into their plans. Also, that since we're going to be going back, it'll allow them to maybe see us a few times before we leave. I was almost in tears. I was so angry. He tried to reassure me saying they had promised it'll be two separate things and they won't be inserting themselves in our honeymoon. They want us to enjoy it and they'd be doing their own thing. I want to believe it, but I know his mom. I like her as a soon-to-be mother-in-law, but she can be very clingy and routinely laments how far he, and now us, are from them. So I just have a feeling the two plans are not going to be as independent as he thinks they'll be. I vented about it to my parents too. My mom agreed with me that this isn't right. My dad is more on the fence about it. He doesn't think everything is ruined. I've demanded my fiance make them change their plans. He says he asked them to. They promised to do their own thing. What can we do? Tell them he doesn't believe them and call them liars? I messed up here and said if that's what it takes. He got quiet. I realized that was too much and sincerely apologized for crossing the line. This has been eating me up. I was envisioning a certain type of honeymoon and this happened. Am I the a-hole? No, OP, you're not the a-hole. The honeymoon is for the newlyweds and now it's got your in-laws included in it. And let's be honest, nobody's buying that perfect timing excuse. Yeah, they want to crash it, come on. As you say, they could go any other time. Why now? Why to the same hotel? Now, acknowledging that, your fiance is in a really tough spot. He confronted his parents and they promised him that they wouldn't interfere. So honestly, I don't see a way of getting out of this without somebody's feelings getting hurt. In this case, it should be your in-laws. In my opinion, your fiance needs to go talk to his parents and ask them to cancel their plans. Because let's pretend they're actually honest and saying that they are going to do their own thing. Even if you bump into them in the lawyer, what are you gonna do? Like pretend they don't exist? No, you're probably gonna have to say hi or have a short conversation or whatever, but it'll still ruin the vibe. So no, OP, not the a-hole. Talk to your fiance, acknowledge his position, but still tell him what is important to you as a couple. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Golden Fingernails says, not the a-hole. This is truly manipulative of your in-laws. Your husband doesn't see this, and that's a concern. Your in-laws absolutely intentionally did this, and you will see them more than you want to, and they will insert themselves into your honeymoon. This is just gross and narcissistic of them. You can change your own plans, go to a different place, or just not marry a guy who's a pushover to his parents. Ashlyn M2 says, not the a-hole. As much as it sucks, the only way to truly secure an in-law-free honeymoon would be to cancel your plans and go somewhere else. Not ideal, but there's no way you're not going to accidentally bump into them the whole time they're there. And OP responds, a few other comments have said this too. I truly appreciate what you're saying and I know I'm overreacting here, but this makes me want to bawl my eyes out. Psych Research AI says, not the a-hole. Your mother-in-law is absolutely inserting herself into your honeymoon and your fiance is being way too passive about it. She saw how excited you were and decided to crash what is supposed to be an intimate and once-in-a-lifetime trip. "We'll do our own thing" is meaningless when she's already ignored a major boundary just to be close to her son. Your fiance needs to wake up and realize that this isn't just an inconvenience, it's controlling and inappropriate. He can do something about it. He can tell them point blank that this is unacceptable, and if they don't change their plans, you too will. Honestly, you might want to start looking at new destinations now, because if she's this clingy, I'd bet she'll be finding ways to accidentally run into you the whole trip. You really need to think what this means for your life ahead, and if your fiance will be this passive about her inserting herself into other aspects of your lives. And Kool-Aid Call 123 says, "Not the a-hole. I would personally change the hotel or the dates or both, or stay at a different hotel the days they're going to be there. Also, a no cell phone policy so they can't get a hold of you." But to be honest, this is a husband problem and not an in-law problem. He should have shut her down point blank at even the suggestion of going to your honeymoon destination at the same time. And OP responds, "Dates can't be changed really. Like, I'd be okay with that, but I know it wouldn't work for him. He had to move around some work stuff for us to finally land on these dates. A different hotel could work, but this is like a coastal area and I really wanted a hotel close to the beach, but I'll start looking for some others too." This hotel had really good reviews too, and because it's not a huge city or something, if people want to meet, it's not too inconvenient, which sucks because what if they decide they do want to meet? And what if we meet on the beach? I'd have to change what I plan on wearing now. I'm just really hoping they change their plan because quite honestly, if I'm the one that has to change plans, I might not end up being a good daughter-in-law. Additional information from OP's comments. "I kinda messed up when telling them about our honeymoon. My fiance had told me back then that he hadn't told his parents yet that we'd confirmed our honeymoon destination, but he didn't tell me why. Otherwise, I'd have followed his cue. Then, when future mother-in-law asked me later in a call, I told her where we were going and hyped up the place, so I regret that now. Also, I spoke to him just now that I was considering switching hotels at least. He said he's on board with that if I decided the same hotel was too much, but said he'd appreciate it if it could be a surprise once we land. So at least that's an option." About my beach attire, there were a couple of bikinis that I had bought for the beach which would have definitely be considered tacky to wear in front of in-laws. And thank you all. I was heartened by the responses here because I thought I was the one being over the top about this, but I can see that most people agree that what they're doing isn't right. Okay, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and of course is backing her up, and OP talked to her fiance about a potential plan. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. "I really didn't want to change plans, so I planned to talk to him again, speaking respectfully about his parents but firm, because last time I had gone over the line a bit, which had derailed our conversation. We met yesterday after work. I raised the issue with him again. I said that he knows how much I'd be looking forward to our honeymoon. I only plan on having it once, and his parents being there will ruin it for both of us. I also said that I didn't want to change anything about it, not the hotel or the destination, it just wasn't fair. He said he doesn't like that they're coming either, but they're giving their word to not interfere. But to me, it's not about believing them, just that the honeymoon I had in mind is going to get ruined with them around. I told him that this wasn't a trivial annoyance for me, this was actually making me unhappy and I need him to do something about it. He said he'd handle it. Well, first he told me that knowing his parents, especially his mom, she's going to feel slighted by us. We're going to be living a 3-hour flight away from them, so it's not like we're going to see them too often, but he said he just wanted me to know that that was going to happen. I said I was fine with that. Probably could have been more tactful, but he found it amusing. He said he'll handle it, so I waited. I'm honestly really proud of myself for having brought it up again and how I said what I had to say. Last night, he told me his parents were canceling their plan. I asked him how it went. He said it went fine. They said it would be 2 separate plans, but he told them their plan was becoming a problem and asked them to change their plan. It would mean a lot to him, so they did. They hadn't booked tickets yet, but they're looking into either getting a refund on their hotel reservations or my fiance suggested delaying it sometime later in the future. I told him I was sorry that he'd been put in this situation, but I was so happy about it. I started tearing up too. This had just been bearing on me so heavily, and I was so glad it was back to the way I have it in my mind. Also, I know the stress of wedding and work has been bearing on him too, and I didn't like adding this extra stress onto him either. He said it was a very short and simple conversation with his parents. I thought there'd be a big argument because he said they hadn't been swayed previously. My parents were also really happy for me. My dad thinks it wouldn't hurt to call my mother-in-law and just apologize for what happened. Not in a "I'm sorry I did this" way, but more of a "I'm sorry this happened" way. My mom thinks there's no need. My fiance thinks it's up to me. He didn't say I needed to, but he just said it'll just be good manners to smooth it over. These past few days I was so angry at his parents. I would have straight up said no to my dad, but they have relented now, so I just said I'll see. My mom is adamantly opposed to it though. They've agreed to cancel it now. They've told my fiance they will. I've really been looking forward to going there, and I'm just going to hold them to their word now. If I see them there, despite them saying they're canceling, I promised that will be the last time they will ever see me. I'm really glad I came here and found out I wasn't overreacting, or I wouldn't have had the confidence to ask for my honeymoon back. Thank you. Opie's edit. There won't be any apologies. His parents had asked for pictures from us during our honeymoon. I'm not sending crap. Every step of the way, I've been so respectful to her. I mean, I was considering calling her to apologize for what happened and smooth things over, and then she starts talking crap about me to my mom, about how she knew I must have been the one who had a problem with their plan, how hostile I was, how I didn't understand the importance of relationships, and that I was making no effort to be a part of the family. My mom stood up for me and said I have no duty to anyone except my soon-to-be husband. I take back whatever I might have said about me generally liking my soon-to-be mother-in-law. I'm done. They've cancelled their vacation. That's what I wanted. I'm going to smile for the family pictures at the wedding, and once we fly out, I'm done with her. Wow, Opie, your mother-in-law, your future mother-in-law sounds like she absolutely sucks. But at least now you know exactly who you're dealing with. Hopefully your future husband is also aware of what's going on. So here's wishing you both the best in the future. Take care and thanks for sharing. Now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user AITA A Steppen Mac. Am I the a-hole because I don't want my half-brothers to come on a trip with my uncle and I? I, 15 male, have 3 older half-brother, twins, Max and Jake, 18 male, and Shane, 16 male. We have the same mother, but they have a different father. Max, Jake, and Shane's father is very involved in their life, and they live with him every other week. On the other hand, I have a deadbeat absent father that I never see. I have no relationship with my half-brother's father. My half-brothers definitely do not treat me the same way they treat each other. I have friends who have older brothers who are supportive and hang out with them and are there for them, and mine are nothing like that. Often, when Max, Jake, and Shane are at their dad's, I spend the weekend with my uncle, my mom's brother. Because of that, my uncle and I are very close. One of the things we do together is watch NASCAR, since he's made me a fan. It's our thing. As far as I know, my half-brothers don't watch NASCAR. I've never watched a race with them at least. Next week, Max, Jake, and Shane were supposed to be at their dad's. My uncle was going to take me to a NASCAR race in Atlanta that weekend, just him and I. However, my brother's dad has had to go away on some business trip, I guess, meaning they aren't going to their dad's next week. Since they'll be here, my uncle also invited them to come to the Atlanta race with us. I don't want them to come. When they went to Europe or Florida or skiing or New York or any of the other trips they take with their dad, I don't get invited. They go away with him 2 or 3 times a year. I've never been away because my mom can't afford it. This will actually be my first time on a plane. They get everything. This is one thing I had, just my uncle and I, and he just invited them. Since they're going, I no longer want to go, and I'm considering telling my uncle that tomorrow. When he told me they were coming, he could see I wasn't happy. He knows how I feel about my relationship with them, but he said since they're home, he can't not invite them. It wouldn't be fair. But it's not my fault their dad is going away. I know my uncle can't uninvite them now, so I really think I'd just prefer to stay home and not go. Would I be the a-hole if I told my uncle I don't want to go and instead stayed home? Well, P, I don't think you'd be an a-hole if you said you didn't want to go. I think it wouldn't be a smart thing to do because why would you punish your uncle for inviting his nephews? I understand that your bio dad sucks. He's a deadbeat, so yeah, F him. And I also get that you formed a really nice relationship with your Uncle Max. He's sort of a father figure to you, but he is also an uncle to your siblings. So I honestly do not see a problem with Max inviting his nephews to go along in the trip. I think it could be a nice bonding experience for everybody. And if you decide not to go, the only person you'd be hurting would be yourself. You'd be depriving yourself of something you want to do just because your siblings are there, who aren't particularly mean to you. They don't bully you or anything. They just have an off relationship with you, which this trip could actually help bring you guys closer together. But again, I don't think you'd be the a-hole. I just think it wouldn't benefit you to do it. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's check out the community comments. Oh Holy Night Owl says, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. Go on the trip and enjoy it. Armorer says, OP, you are entitled to your feelings, and I get that it feels unfair to you, and you have absolutely been shafted in the dad department, but it's not your brother's fault that you have different fathers and no male support for you except your uncle, who you share as a common family member. You are being unreasonable here because your uncle is within his right to want to spend time with his other nephews that he probably doesn't get to see as much as you. Soft, you're the a-hole. Don't blow a good opportunity. Go on the trip and enjoy yourself. Chances are your brothers may not know the first thing about NASCAR and not care to engage. And MPlunchbox96 says, no a-holes here. I understand your half-brothers are enjoying things you're not because of their dad. However, you have to look at this from your uncle's perspective. He has 4 nephews, not 1 nephew and 3 half-nephews, but 4. He is helping his sister by providing things for you because his sister can't afford trips and her other kids are getting very nice trips. If he were to only take 1 nephew, the other 3 may feel as if you are favorited over them. If you truly don't want to go, but you shouldn't let the presence of your half-brothers ruin something that you would enjoy. So there were mixed responses, but the overall majority agreed that OP should still go on the trip and enjoy it. So let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. After reading the comments, I realized it wasn't my place to ask my uncle not to invite my brothers, as he is also their uncle. Also, if I chose not to go, it would just be denying myself something I really wanted to do and would upset my uncle, which I didn't want. So I decided to go to the NASCAR race. I also decided against saying anything further at the time. The days before we left, it felt like my brothers were being nicer than usual, so that was cool. They added me to their group chat so that it would be easier to keep in contact on the trip, the reason they gave. I roomed with one of my older brothers, Max, in the hotel. On Saturday, we went to the racetrack for the first races. I was getting food when I accidentally cut the line. I thought the people standing in front had already ordered. Someone pointed it out to me and I went to the right spot in line. There was a guy in line who was super mad, going on about how I was a little a-hole and only apologized because I got caught, and he walked up to me yelling, and then Max appeared and told the guy to calm down and stop yelling at me. He kept yelling at me and Max stood between me and the guy and told him, if you say another thing to my little brother, we're going to have a problem. And the guy finally backed off. I've never seen Max as mad as he was right then over that guy yelling at me, and it meant a lot the way he jumped in. Back in our hotel room that night, I was thanking Max again for standing up for me earlier, and he told me as his brother he'd always do that for me. It seemed like the right moment, so I finally took the advice and opened up to him. I told him that I wished me, him, Jake and Shane hung out more together, and I'd like doing more stuff with him and them. We talked for a long time about our relationship. Max then talked to Shane and Jake because the next day they both apologized for me having felt left out as well. When we flew back home, Max has told Jake more of what I had said. He asked me if he could first. Jake and I went out on Tuesday and talked about it a bunch, and he kept apologizing for letting me down. I told him it was probably mutual and I didn't act like I wanted to spend time with them, but he told me he was my big brother and should have been better. We've all agreed to do better going forward. Kind of funny that it was a drunk guy yelling at me which got me to open up in the end. Well, OP, good for you. You went to the trip, you enjoyed it, and you got closer to your siblings. Hopefully, things keep moving forward in that direction. Thanks so much for sharing, OP, and take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.